My Iyashikei Game. Police officer, would you believe me if I say this is an Iyashikei game? Would you like to play a game? You said you're a comedy actor, so why the long face? How about a smile? At Xinlu City, inside an old convenience store called Afterlife, an old man was consoling the store's only customer. Our whole family likes to watch your show, we're all your fans. Your show always accompanies us during dinner. If it's not on, something doesn't feel right that night. The old man rambled for a long time before the young man, who stood at the corner, slowly turned round. He looked around 20. He was casually dressed and his hair was unkempt. He did not look particularly handsome, but there was an indescribable air of melancholy about him. The show that I was a part of has stopped broadcasting. I was fired from my agency 3 days ago. That's fine, you're such a good actor, you'll definitely find a new job soon. The gentlemanly boss comforted, but the young man only shook his head. He did not continue this topic. Boss, I've played all the second-hand games you have available here. Do you have any new stock recently? Well, there is some, but based on your current situation, I wouldn't recommend you to go and play those overly gory and scary games. The boss took out a black box from under the counter. The box was made from an unknown material and it seemed to be very heavy. Have you tried Iyashikei games before? Iyashikei? It's a Japanese game genre. It's used for anime, manga and games created with the specific purpose of having a healing or soothing effect on the audience. Works of this kind often involve alternative realities with little to no conflict, emphasizing nature and the little delights in life. The boss explained as he removed a second-hand gaming helmet from the box. Technology is getting more and more advanced these days, but people are drifting further and further away from the simple joys of life. People nowadays have to contend with so many kinds of daily pressure. A good Iyashikei game can help relax one's mind and warm one's soul. I think you should give it a try. The young man hesitated after he accepted the helmet from the boss. Finally, he nodded. Boss, what's the name of this game? Perfect Life. After making the purchase, Hanf put on his mask, pulled down his cap, hugged the helmet and left the store. He did not do this because he was afraid of being recognized. He just wanted to avoid social interaction as much as possible. Hanf slowly unwound after he reached his rental home. He switched on the television and surfed the channels for a while before getting up to use the bathroom. After graduating from Xinlu Movie and TV Acting Academy, he worked hard every day to achieve his goal of becoming a comedy actor who could bring everyone joy. However, hard work might not necessarily equate to result. Without any connection in the industry, he worked hard for years before he got a chance to move from behind the camera to the front. But for some reason, he was squeezed out from his agency. Water slid down his face. Hanf looked at himself in the mirror. His fingers hooked on the corners of his lips to force a smile. Sighing, Hanf tore off the post-its on the mirror. The post-its had the same message repeated multiple times: the best actor is yourself in your own life. Exiting the bathroom, Hanf returned to his study table. He started to observe the gaming helmet he left on the table. He had heard of the game, Perfect Life, before. According to legend, Perfect Life was a joint effort between Deep Space Technology and Immortal Pharmaceutical. It was a deeply immersive virtual reality game, and it was the world's first ever game that could simulate actual sense of smell, touch and taste in game. It was labeled as the ultimate game. Theoretically, if a player had no material connection to the real world, they could survive inside the virtual world forever. It sounded like the plot of a sci-fi novel, but with researchers from both Deep Space Technology and Immortal Pharmaceutical heading the helm, anything was possible. After all, with the advancement in AI and medical technologies, these two tech giants had worked many miracles in the past. When the game was first released, it created an uproar among the public. Deep Space Technology was the leading company in aerospace, AI and telecommunication. They had been studying and researching the project of space migration. On the other hand, Immortal Pharmaceutical was the linchpin in the field of biotechnology and human nervous system engineering. Their company goal was to unlock the ultimate truth of human life. These two companies, that had no relations to gaming, aimed to pour a large amount of funds to develop a new game. Many people had no idea what they were up to. The internet reviews for Perfect Life were equivocal. Some reviewers thought the game was a perfect Iyashikei game. The players could simulate all kinds of experience in the game. It was practically a man-made heaven. One could obtain everything within a virtual city, and accomplish all their dreams. On the other hand, other reviewers lampooned the game's lack of moral limitation. It would agitate the darkest desire within humanity. The closed beta of most games were tested by professional gamers and reviewers, but the testers for this game consisted mostly of members of related governmental departments. From that point alone, one could see how unique the game was. In any case, this was the first time Hanf attempted a virtual reality game. For the sake of security, he went online to search for related info on Perfect Life. Under the monitoring of related departments, Perfect Life completed 5 CPs and underwent 3 big patches. Tonight, Perfect Life would begin its 6th CP at midnight. If everything went without a hitch, this CP would be the last test before the Achillob. How did the boss manage to get the game if the game is not even out of CP yet? Is he connected to someone in the company? Furthermore, the internet says that Perfect Life does not come with a gaming helmet, instead it will be sold with a gaming hub. The price is about 200,000 RMB. After giving it some thought, Hanf concluded that he was scammed. The game inside this gaming helmet was probably a pirated version of Perfect Life. But since he had already paid for it, Hanf thought it was no harm to give it a try. After connecting all the circuits, and when the light came on, Hanf put the helmet on. Darkness enveloped everything. Hanf felt like he was submerged inside a dark ocean. He could not see anything, but he could hear the sound of a news broadcast. 31st December morning news. The building of Xinluai City is in its final legs. This fully automated city will be a milestone in human history. 31st December morning news. The international anti-monopoly investigation into deep space technology has been initiated again. 31st December morning news. To preserve the public welfare, the government decides to invest more funds into the field of technology and education to unlock more high-tech products and to produce more useful talents. 31st December morning news. There was a serious fire around Xinlu City's Antique Street. Many old shops were ruined. There is a chance that this might be the work of an arsonist on the loose. The voice dwindled until eventually the world before Hanf's eyes turned blood red. A strange voice emitted from inside the gaming helmet. It worried Hanf. He was about to remove the helmet when a pain came from the back of his head. It was like a needle had been pierced into his skull and something had been uploaded or downloaded. Biogenetic document upload successful, memory document upload successful, nervous connectivity successful. First generation GM account activated, clearance ID 0000. To friendly neighbor. Perfect Life is a casual Iyashikei game that will comfort your soul and ease your tension. Here, you will find plenty of laugh-out-loud scenarios, and heartwarming familial life waiting for you. With hope and bliss as our central tenets, we strive to bring positive energy into every player's life. Time ticked by until 23:59 when the mechanical voice, that seemed to echo from deep inside Hanf's brain, silenced. Now you are free to choose your own perfect life. A hard, icy surface stimulated Hanf's facial muscle. The young man slowly opened his eyes and realized he was lying face down inside an unfamiliar room. The room was about 70 cubic meters in size. The furniture was covered in a thick layer of dust. The wall was mottled with some dark red stains. Jesus Christ, the headache. It felt like someone had drilled a hole into the back of my head. A light scent of mold filtered into his nostrils. Hanf could detect everything around him clearly. His senses of smell, sight, hearing, touch and taste were all intact. This gaming world was no different from real life. Sitting dumbly on the ground, Hanf studied the empty and dilapidated room around him. The room's layout and furniture style reminded him of an old home. Dust was everywhere, which suggested that the place had been vacant for a long time. So this is my in-game house? Hanf stood up, rubbing the back of his head. Based on the game intro, this should be a life simulator game in the Iyashikei genre. It is an open-world game with no fixed plot. It is my freedom to increase my personal level or farm resources. I can even find a virtual girlfriend, to pursue virtual love and relationships. Just as Hanf was considering what to do next, a knock came from the door. Walking through the living room, Hanf pulled open the anti-theft door. The dim voice-activated light from the corridor filtered into the room, chasing away the silence and loneliness. "Young man, you're our new tenant, yes?" A friendly voice traveled from outside the door. A granny with a kind smile and silvery hair stood in the corridor that was packed with trash. "It's the new year. Granny has made some homemade dumplings. Come and join us for dinner. You shouldn't be alone on the holiday." Everyone was busy with their lives in the modern city. Normally neighbors in the same building would not even share a few words within a month. Therefore, this was the first time Hanf received this kind of invitation in his life. "Thank you, but I really don't want to impose on you." Ever since Hanf was fired, he formed a social block around himself. He did not wish to have too much social interactions with others. "Both my son and daughter-in-law are away from home. There are only myself and my young grandson at home. I've cooked too much and the two of us can't possibly finish all of them, so you won't be imposing on us." The granny looked at Hanf with kindness and adoration, like she was laying eyes on her own children. Her every word spoke of sunny warmth. Traditionally, dumplings have the meaning of unity and they are meant to usher in the new year. Having dumplings on 1st of January will help you chase away the negative aura from the previous year. I know it must be hard for a young man like yourself to have come to the big city to work and eke out a living. Come and join us for a simple New Year meal. The granny was insistent with her invitation. If this was real life, Hanf would have found many different excuses to deny her, but since this was a game, he had to consider the possibility that this was a necessary plot point. With a nod, Hanf grabbed the ring of keys on the living room table and followed the granny downstairs. "Granny, watch your feet, be careful." The corridor and staircase were both filled with trash and garbage. The iron banister was rusted. Children doodles and small paper advertisements covered the walls. This place was a perfect replica of a housing apartment from several decades ago. As technology flew forward, this kind of apartment building slowly faded out of existence. The granny led Hanf down one floor and stopped before room 1031. The number on the door faded from age, but its paint was still startlingly red. With a light cough, the granny pushed the door open. A delectable smell of meat drifted out from the room. Hanf swallowed his saliva and peered into the room. The granny's house was dark. The lights were not switched on, and the only light source was the several candles on the dining table. The electric fuse burned. I called the electrician, but they were probably on break due to the holiday. "Granny, how about I help you? I used to change my own burnt fuse." Hanf did not treat the old lady as an NPC. For some unknown reason, the granny felt like a real-life person to him. "Then you better be careful. The spare fuse is inside the drawer," the granny said as she hurried towards the kitchen. Her meat was cooking on the stove. Using the spare ladder, Hanf replaced the burnt fuse. He pulled on the electric brake and bright light returned to the dark room. Notification for player 0000. Grade G normal mission, changing the fuse completed. Friendliness with Meng Xiu increases by 5. Forming a peaceful neighborly relationship is the first step to a perfect life. A cold and emotionless robotic voice echoed deep inside Hanf's brain. Mission system activated. New player missions updated. Completing the new player missions will aid you to understand everything about this world better. Following the unfamiliar voice, a window appeared before Hanf's eyes, but before he could take a closer look at it, the granny came out carrying a pot of fish stew. "This stew is fresh from the stove, come and taste it while it's still hot." The granny served the dish with a smile. She turned to the bedroom door. She unlocked the iron lock on the door. "Chen Chen, it's time for dinner." Moments later, a young boy about 5 or 6 sauntered out. He kept his head lowered and he appeared to be in a mood. He probably was arguing with his grandmother earlier. Have dinner first. I still have some other dishes to cook. The granny opened the refrigerator and took out a frozen half chicken from the upper section. The electricity has been out for so long, how come it's still so frozen? She placed the frozen meat into a small box and casually placed it on the dining table. Granny, there's no need to cook so many dishes, we won't be able to finish them. It's tradition for us to serve our guests the best. Plus, the meat will go bad if they're left in the fridge for too long. The way the granny bustled inside the kitchen reminded Hanf of the picture of a perfect family always featured in Chinese New Year advertisements. Hanf was an orphan, you'd think he never got the chance to experience the joy of holidays, but the orphanage he grew up at did celebrate these holidays, and they did them with style, but the joy was short-lived. Hanf smiled, surprised at being given the chance to re-experience this unexpected warmth in the game. The smell of meat permeated the air. The sound of sizzling came from the kitchen, and the television was playing some kind of New Year special. The ordinariness of everything seemed to wash away the aloofness of this unfamiliar city. Perhaps these simple things are the true essence of a happy life. There would be ups and downs in life. If one refused to move forward due to the fear of falling, then one would forever be trapped in darkness. Hanf picked up the ladle and served Chen Chen and himself each a bowl of fish stew. The milky white soup gave off a scrumptious smell. Hanf blew on the hot soup. Just as he took a sip, he saw from the corner of his eyes the boy across from the table raise the bowl up from the table. What is he doing? Before Hanf could react, the boy slammed the bowl heavily onto the ground. There's no way I'm going to eat something that comes out from the coffin. PFFT. Hearing what the boy said, the fish stew came flying out of Hanf's mouth. Coffin? The china shattered and the soup splattered everywhere. Hearing the commotion, the granny rushed out from the kitchen. Chen Chen. What have you done? I'm not eating these. Like the chicken, you made them from ingredients taken out from the coffin. The boy lifted his head and his eyes were incredibly bloodshot. What nonsense. Afraid that the hot soup might scald the boy, the granny rushed to the dining table without even removing her apron. The apartment manager said that you should only store dead people inside coffins. The boy struggled loose from his grandmother. He grabbed the frozen chicken off the table and threw it to the ground. After that, he retreated to his bedroom. Get back here. The granny chased after the boy, leaving Hanf with a bowl of fish stew in the living room. The boy is kinda strange. Hanf put down his bowl gingerly. He found the mop behind the door and moved to help the old lady with the cleanup. But when he bent over to pick up the frozen chicken from the ground, something hit him. The boy said that he'd never eat something made from ingredients kept inside a coffin, but Hanf saw very clearly the chicken was taken out from the refrigerator. So why would the boy confuse the refrigerator for a coffin? Perhaps the clues laid in the second statement the boy gave. The apartment manager said that you should only store dead people inside coffins. Could it be that the boy saw a dead body inside their family refrigerator? As this thought crossed his mind, Hanf was stumped. Was this a question he should be asking in an Iyashikei game? 3. Sleep. Some people played games to while away time, others played games to stomp over plebs, while Hanf started this game because he was promised a relaxing experience. But now, he felt even more under duress. Putting away the mop, Hanf looked around. Hanf scanned his surroundings. The lights in the room flickered on and off, the feeling of familial warmth had disappeared without a trace. He sidled to the side of the refrigerator. Earlier, the old woman only opened the upper section, which was the freezer. This meant that Hanf had no idea what kind of surprise was waiting for him in the lower section. The old lady's refrigerator was not large enough to fit a whole person inside, unless of course. Hanf took a deep breath as he slowly opened the lower section of the refrigerator. He pulled open the individual fridge drawers and realized they were all stuffed with bulging black plastic bags. He encountered similar plots in horror movies before, but watching them on screen and living inside one were two completely different experiences. His fingers reached into the drawer. Hanf was worried that he'd be greeted by human faces or hair. With a tingle of his Adam's apple, Han fused his fingernails to scratch through the thin black plastic. They were filled with frozen fish and poultry. The horrendous images that he anticipated did not appear. Han sighed in quiet relief. He quickly closed the refrigerator before the granny returned. "What are you doing?" Right at that moment, a throaty voice erupted behind him. Han felt an involuntary chill slither up his spine. My lord, how did she manage to move without making any noise? Han surreptitiously reached for the mop as he turned around. After all, the man was a professional actor. He soon managed to arrange his facial expression. "I was just trying to help clean up. There was some accumulated water under the refrigerator. I suspected it was due to water leakage from the chiller caused by the electricity shortage." The old lady's expression remained the same. She always presented the same kind and welcoming smile to him, but the longer he stared at her, the more discomforted he felt. It was as if this was the only expression she knew how to make. "Granny, like you said, I've been staying away from home for quite some time already. Thank you for giving me a chance to join your family's holiday celebration." Han very naturally started to mop the floor. "We'll be neighbors from now on, so please do not hesitate to come find me if you run into any trouble." Despite his suspicion, Han had to act like he was none the wiser. Han cleaned up the living room nicely. He noticed the old lady had trouble with her legs. She had trouble moving, so how did she manage the ghost-like movement earlier? In any case, it's getting late. You should go rest. I won't bother you any further. As he made to leave, the robotic voice rang in his mind again, "Notification for player 0000. Your kind gestures have left a good impression on Meng Si. Friendliness with Meng Si increases by 5. Forming a peaceful neighborly relationship is the first step to a perfect life." While his attention was distracted by the system notification, the old lady had materialized behind Han. "I intended to tell you this during dinner, but I doubt you'll be coming back anytime soon. You're a good kid and Granny wishes to have you as a neighbor, but I need to tell you this. Don't stay because of the cheap rental, move away as soon as you can. There have been some incidents that happened in that house of yours." "What kind of incidents?" "It's best that you don't know too much. Just remember this. You have to lock the door to your bathroom before you go to sleep at night." The old lady then turned to head back to her kitchen as if she had lost interest in the conversation. Soon a strange sound came from the kitchen, following it was the delicious and heavy smell of meat. Han took that as his cue to leave, and leave he did. After he left the granny's front door, his heart finally settled back into place. Something does not seem right with this game. To be fair, Han did not find any chopped body parts inside the old lady's refrigerator, but many suspicious details stood out to him. For example, when he arrived, the old lady told him her house's fuse was burnt. Suppose the fuse was of good quality. The only reason for a burnt fuse was power overload. However, when Han cleaned the old lady's house earlier, he took a silent inventory of the kitchen and living room. He noted only 3 electrical appliances: the television, the lamp and the refrigerator. These few appliances wouldn't have burnt the fuse, so the only explanation was, there were other electrical appliances hidden away from view. The boy's bedroom was locked. Why would the old lady lock her grandson up? Is it because she was afraid the boy might accidentally say something to me? Or could there be a second refrigerator inside the boy's bedroom? The thought of the boy sleeping with dead bodies caused Han to shiver. He turned to look down the eerie-looking corridor. There appeared to be eyes watching him from behind every closed door. How come the place suddenly feels so creepy? Han hurried back to his own home. He tried many different keys on the ring before he found the correct one. Han rushed into the safety of his house. Looking at the empty living room, he took in deep breaths. Am I being paranoid? Somehow, this Iyashikei game plays more like a Resident Evil game to me. After pouring himself a glass of water, Han paced around the room. The parting words from the old lady circulated in his mind like an evil mantra. It's best that you don't know too much. Just remember this. You have to lock the door to your bathroom before you go to sleep at night. Han reassessed his surroundings. The house had seen better days, but during this closer examination, a strange detail jumped out at Hanf. Other than the window in the bathroom, every single window inside this house was covered behind a thick, opaque curtain. Approaching one of the windows, Hanf pulled back a corner of the curtain. The window underneath the curtain was boarded up. Hanf looked through the wooden gap and saw a dim city. The gaming world was enormous, the darkness that enveloped it stretched down the horizon. Where are the promised warm scenarios and relaxing background music? Hanf lowered back the curtain. Hanf realized the online reviews he found might be incomplete. The game probably featured some elements that were not advertised or picked up by others. Or I'm playing the game the wrong way? In terms of sound quality, visual effect, and interactivity, this game was definitely the best game Hanf had played. In fact, it surpassed every one of his expectations. But somehow, everything in this game felt a bit too real. Sitting on the couch, Hanf closed his eyes. Two windows floated in his mind. One was his character profile and the other was the mission interface. After he helped the old lady with the fuse, the mission interface was triggered. The voice did say that completing the new player missions would help him understand the gaming world better. With that in mind, Hanf clicked open the mission interface. Studying the 3 new player missions, his face scrunched up in confusion. New player mission 1, take a shower. New player mission 2, watch a television show. New player mission 3, sleep. The missions were so simple that it was ridiculous. They had no extra explanation because they did not require any. Should I start with sleeping? I'm quite good at it. There was reasoning behind Hanf's decision. There was mention of sleeping in the old lady's ominous warning, so it might be key to helping him complete this seemingly simple mission. Compared to selecting a random one, Hanf figured he might as well pick one that was presented to him, albeit indirectly. I'm going to choose new player mission 3, sleep. When this thought appeared in Hanf's mind, the mission was chosen and the robotic voice returned. Player 0000 has accepted grade G new player mission, sleep. Mission introduction: after a whole day of work, you dragged your tired body to bed. Mission requirement: please close all the lights in the room and get into bed within the next 5 minutes. No matter what happens, you must not leave the bed in the subsequent 3 hours. Is it really that simple? Hanf double-checked the mission detail before he stood up to head into the bedroom. The king-sized bed was equally dirty with dust. However, it came complete with all the necessary bedding accoutrements like pillows, bedspreads and coverlets. It was worth noting that everything was red in color, which was synonymous with celebration in Chinese culture. With this color, this feels like a matrimonial bed. Hanf frowned as he fluffed away the dust. Then he moved to the bathroom. Just as he prepared to follow the old lady's advice, he noticed a problem. The bathroom door could only be locked from the inside. After giving it some thought, Hanf grabbed the mop and held it under the door handle. Then he moved the shoe rack to barricade against the door. This should be enough, right? For the sake of extra insurance, he went back to the kitchen to grab the cleaver. It's a bit weird sleeping in bed with a cleaver in an Iyashikei game, isn't it? Oh well, it's better to be safe than sorry. Seeing as the 5 minutes were about to run out, he ran to close all the light and crawled into bed with the cleaver in hand. 4 strange development. As mentioned earlier, before starting the game, Hanf did attempt to find its reviews online. Positive reviews dominated most parts. Many CP players praised this game as a reincarnation of a man-made heaven. It manifested humanity's imagination of nirvana. At the time, Hanf did imagine the life he'd lead inside the game. He would have many friends, and had no worry for money anymore. His daily life would consist of money counting and indulgence in sins. His life would be boring that way. Again, imagination proved more beautiful than virtual reality. At that moment, Hanf was cowering inside the tattered covers with a cleaver, while training his laser focus on the electric wall clock. The clock's paint was peeling at parts. The smell of mold hung in the air like a horrible stench. It was now 2 a.m. in the morning. The new player mission, sleep, had started for a while already. The room was quiet, there was no accident. Hanf started to ease into complacency. Even though the granny's warning was scary, at the end of the day, this was supposed to be an Iyashikei game. No matter how horrid one's life was, Hanf could not imagine the definition of anyone's happy daily life being related to crazy murderers and supernatural hauntings. After another 10 minutes, Hanf gradually relaxed since nothing changed. In fact, he started to get a little bored. With nothing else to do, he opened his character profile to study it. I have faith this kind of high-quality game will gain immense popularity after it enters up. I should earn as much EXP as I can now. If I get good enough, I might even make a nice side income out of this. Name, Hanf. Clearance ID, 00000. Level, 1. Profession, none. Intelligence, 6, an umbrella term for all mental-related categories and abilities. This includes the player's memory, thoughts, emotions, mental acuity, cleverness, stability, experience and knowledge. Stamina, 4, an umbrella term for everything related to physical strength. Charm, 10, charm is a subjective concept, everyone has their own unique charm. Luck, 9, the higher the value, the luckier the player will be. Malice, 0, guess how malicious human being can be. Sanity value, 100, under the influence of various internal and external environments, as well as self-adjustment, a player's mental state will not remain unchanged forever. When the stimulus crosses over a certain threshold, the player will be forced offline. To put it simply, this is a parameter used to measure the player's state of mental health. The lower the value, the easier madness can claim the player. Life points, 100, when one's life points reach 0, the player will die. Warning, each player only has one life at a time, all saved data will be cleared and restarted after death. Talent, resurrection, unknown level talent. Unknown effect. A small percentage of lucky players will gain an innate talent during character building. Skill tab, the skills obtained by the player will be showcased here, intermediate acting, beginner cooking. Personality, none, the brilliant uniqueness of humanity. Obtaining different types of personalities will greatly improve your perfect life. After going through the character profile, Hanf was confused. He had no idea when his character was built and how it mirrored his real-life counterparts so closely. Is the gaming account tied to my citizenry information? Or is it due to facial recognition? Moreover, each character only has one life in-game at a time, and all saved data will be cleared after every death. That is quite a harsh setup. For the sake of an easy gaming experience, many recent games lowered their overall difficulty, but this game took the opposite route. The game was incredibly realistic. After death, one would lose everything one had in life. Looks like I'll have to be more careful. This building I'm in is not so normal, I need to move out as soon as I can. Before Hanf's attention moved away from the character profile, a sudden sound traveled into his ears without warning. Narrowing his eyes, Hanf pounced up in bed like a cat. I'm the only person in this house, so what made that noise? The sound was not particularly loud, but it was amplified by the overall silence of the night. Therefore, Hanf heard it clearly. Gripping the cleaver, Hanf's eyes scanned around him. His eyes had gotten used to the darkness. He studied all the furniture in the bedroom. The room itself was old, combined that with the boarded-up windows, it lent an overall oppressive feeling to its tenant. Initially, Hanf was not affected much by it, but the longer he stayed there in the darkness, the more uncomfortable he felt. Could there have been a death in this house before? The old lady warned me from taking advantage of the cheap rental. Usually an early death in the house would lower the rental price. Greek. While Hanf's nervous mind conjured up horrible thoughts, the strange noise returned once more. Holding his breath, Hanf scanned the darkness in the living room. All the furniture took on a sinister outline in the dark, like they could come alive at any moment. Where did that sound come from? His pupils darted everywhere before it landed on the bathroom door. His pupils narrowed and his heart started to palpitate. Greek. Hanf saw clearly the door handle of the bathroom door move. Impossible. I checked the bathroom before I switched off the lights. There was no one in there. The air around him seemed to freeze. Hanf did not even dare to blink. The lock of the bathroom door was the kind used in old houses. The two sides of the lock were jointly connected, so it meant that once someone turned the handle from the inside, the handle would turn also on the outside. The granny told me to lock the bathroom door. Does that mean that she knew something was hiding inside it? Drowsiness dispersed immediately. He wasn't this focused even during his university entrance exam. The electric clock ticked loudly. Time passed by slowly. At 2:44 a.m., the bathroom door handle creaked again. The thing locked inside the bathroom seemed to get angrier. Its movement was less elusive. Inside the empty room, the bathroom door handle wiggled up and down. Creak. 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 The vibration of the door grated at the man's nerves. Hanf stared fixedly at the mop nudged against the door handle. As the vibration quickened, the mop slid down little by little. Soon a small crack opened on the bathroom door. Unknown terror sheltered within the darkness. A heavy silence blanketed the room. After a long second, 5 deathly pale fingers reached out from inside the gap. A slender arm grabbed at the mop that blocked against the door handle. What in the world is that? Cold sweat drenched his back. Hanf's limbs were chilled. He knew he was inside a game, but his instinct told him to escape as soon as he could. The mop was removed. The door swung open soundlessly like it was blown open by a draft. The lights were still off and there was nothing inside the dark maw of the bathroom. For all appearances, everything that happened earlier seemed like an illusion. The door opened inwards, but the shoe rack in front of it still remains unmoved. This means that the thing probably has not come out. Holding onto the cleaver for dear life, Hanf's attention was drawn fully to the shoe rack. Sweat glided down his face and his heart pounded noisily. Hanf was on high alert, but no other sounds came from inside the house. Is the thing still inside the bathroom? The corner of his eyes swept the living room. Earlier Hanf had memorized the location of all the furniture. As his eyes scanned past the living area, Hanf's heart squeezed. There was an additional blob of shadow that had appeared right next to the couch that sat in the middle of the living room. There was nothing next to the couch earlier. I'm sure of that. His heart almost jumped out of his throat. Hanf played this game to relax and search for the simple joys in life. This was definitely not what he signed up for, so he decided to quit the game. No matter what the hell you are, I'll be safe from you once I exit this blasted game. Opening the menu, Hanf found the option to quit the game. But the option was now grayed out. After clicking it multiple times, the real devastating scene appeared. Warning. You will have to play more than 3 hours and complete at least one mission before you can exit from the game. The robotic voice caused Hanf's eyes to twitch. His heart almost stopped. I can't quit. The iciness nipped at his nerves. When Hanf exited the menu, he noticed the shadow that was by the couch had already moved to the bedroom door. From this closer distance, Hanf realized the shadow was actually a person squatting on the ground. 5. How is this an Iyashikei game? The black shadow beside the couch materialized at the bedroom door. Hanf could barely make out the shape of a person. It was squatting on the ground with its head lowered. Hanf half knelt on the bed as if petrified. The moldy long red cover draped over his back. If I'd known that this is an action game, I would have been much more prepared, but the boss and the internet reviews all told me that this is supposed to be an Iyashikei game. Who the fuck would be prepared to escape for dear life in an Iyashikei game? He stared transfixed at the bedroom door. His brain started to spin after a temporary shutdown. He was already caught in this conundrum, so it was fruitless to blame the game. He would have to survive within the given rules. To exit the game, he would have to satisfy 2 conditions. 1. Play the game for more than 3 hours. 2. Complete at least one mission. I have already completed the fuse mission at the granny's home. I remember when I first logged into the game, I saw the wall clock show that it was midnight. The last time I checked the bedroom clock, it was 2:44 a.m., so technically I only need to survive for another 16 minutes and then I can get the hell away from this place. Hanf's brain had never worked so fast. Staring at the door, his muscles tensed and his fingers tightened around the cleaver handle. Based on my earlier inspection, there was no one inside the bathroom, and it is not large enough to hide anyone, so what the hell is this thing? Hell, is this creature even the same one as the thing that escaped from the bathroom? Hanf only needed to survive for another 16 minutes, but the big question was, how? Things were certainly spiraling south. He could not tell whether the cleaver would work on these creatures or not. In fact, the cleaver was for his own comfort than anything else. He was told to lie in bed, and then somehow, the bathroom door opened without explanation. After that, some unknown creature materialized in the living room before moving to block the bedroom door. This surely was one hell of an Iyashikei game. Calm down. I have to calm down. The inability to quit the game shook Hanf greatly. He was still reeling from it when the terror of the unknown pounced at him. Honestly, the fact that he was still conscious surprised even Hanf himself. The old lady said that something has once happened in this house and it's wise to move away as soon as possible. She should be warning me about this creature on the ground. The fact that the other apartment houses are still occupied probably means that this thing rarely leaves this house, so I should be safe if I am able to escape from this house. But that was easier said than done. As Hanf laid his eyes on the blurry shadow by the door, he lost all courage to move. No, wait. There is still hope. If it stays over by the door, I will only need to stay here for another 16 minutes and everything will be over. But once it crawls in, I'll run out of the bedroom immediately. That would fail his new player mission, but now was not the time to care about that. Hanf's eyes slowly moved to check the electric clock on the living room wall. Before he saw the time though, chilblains rose up his skin. With his pupils narrowing, Hanf looked to the bedroom door again. The squatting person had disappeared. At that moment, Hanf made the wise decision to escape. He did not stay to switch on the light, or retreat to the bathroom or wait for the thing to get him. He jumped down from bed and raced towards the front door. He knew the thing had entered the bedroom. He was not going to wait in there like a sheep waiting for the butcher. Instead of finding out what the thing was, Hanf valued his life more. Every second was precious. Hanf did not think he ever ran as fast as he did now. He rushed towards the anti-theft door and blasted through it. The commotion lit up the lights in the corridor. The dim light streamed into the house, but Hanf did not dare to turn around to look. He only chanced to glance back from the corner of his eyes as he raced towards the steps. Inside the empty room, a person was contorted in an impossible angle under the bedroom light. If Hanf had stopped to open the light, he'd come face to face with a bloodless visage. As he ran forward, Hanf closed the door behind him with a swing of his feet to put some distance between him and the thing. Perhaps the door might stop the thing from coming out, one never knows. However, soon Hanf heard a spine-tingling sound coming from inside his house. It sounded like someone was scratching the door with their nails. The thing wishes to come out too? Can't things like that phase through walls? Well, Hanf was not going to stay to find out. He grabbed his cleaver and raced down the stairs. Hanf knew the granny was no friendly character either, but compared to the unknown creature, the old lady seemed to pose a smaller threat. Hanf arrived at the third floor and the familiar smell of meat hit him again. He saw the old lady's door being left half open and there were several black plastic bags by the door. They were different from the ones he saw inside the refrigerator earlier. Taking a few steps back, Hanf's back knocked into the door of another tenant. An already cracked baggy mirror fell from the top of the door and it almost hit him. Turning back to look, Hanf noticed the person's door was covered with talismans. That was definitely not a good sign. Is there not a normal person in this building? And why didn't I notice this earlier? The stream of endless stimuli pulled Hanf's nerves taut. Right at that moment, all the voice-activated lights went off. He stomped loudly on the ground, but the lights refused to come back on. In the deadly silence that followed, Hanf could hear clearly the sound of the door being opened. Something was approaching him in the dark. His heart raced. Hanf traced his way down the steps. He sensed the thing was chasing him. Gritting his teeth, Hanf rushed all the way to the first floor. Then he realized with devastation the building entrance was locked. He was unable to leave this apartment building. Hanf tried to force the lock open with brute force. The cleaver chopped repeatedly at the lock. Eventually, though, a shadow loomed over him like something giant had stopped behind him. Something curled around his neck. Hanf continued to chop at the lock like he was crazy, but in reality, he was actually waiting for the exit button in the menu to light up. Chill seeped through his body. Slowly, energy left him and the cleaver dangled by his side weakly. Just as he was about to lose his consciousness, the button finally lit up. The 3 hours were up. Exit now. Bang. A loud crash boomed in his mind. The world spun and pain gripped him. Resisting the pain, the moment Hanf regained control of his body, he yanked the gaming helmet off his head and slammed it heavily on the table. The projected monitor on the wall showed that it was already 3:01 a.m. Hanf entered the game in the morning, but when he exited, it was already past midnight. Fatigue bogged down on every inch of his body. A sense of surrealism overcame him. Since the gaming world was so similar to the real world, it felt as if he was still trapped inside the game. Notification for player 0000. You have completed your first gaming experience inside the first edition of Perfect Life. Please do explore it further. The cold robotic voice chimed deep inside his mind. Hanf froze to the spot. He was sure that he had already removed the gaming helmet, so where did the voice come from? How is this possible? Notification for player 0000. You have completed your first gaming instance. Please initiate your second gaming instance within the next 24 hours. Why is this voice still in my head? Hanf touched the back of his head and he winced with pain. He picked up the heavy gaming and was shocked to see blood splattered inside the helmet. Thinking back, Hanf remembered blurrily, there was something that was inserted into his head when he first put on the helmet. Wait, this is attempted murder, right? Hanf took out his phone to call the police, but as he attempted to do so, the robotic voice said again, notification for player 0000. Please do not reveal any gaming information to anyone else or the black box within your brain will explode and cerebral death will be certain in 0.001 second. Black box? Cerebral death? Hanf looked at the Iyashikei genre logo pasted on the side of the gaming helmet and he felt his headache intensifying.